If you're tired of seeing this screen and getting surrounded every single match, it's time to start playing like a legend. You don't need more dots, you need better strategy. I'm breaking down 5 essential tips to help you dominate the map and never lose a battle again. Most players think War of Dots is just about who has the biggest army. They're wrong. You can have a larger army and still get absolutely dismantled by someone who understands the invisible mechanics of the game. Today, we aren't just looking at how to move your units, we are looking at how to command your battlefield empire. We are breaking down the top 5 tips that will take you from a casual clicker to an elite strategist. We are covering everything from the importance of your city logistics all the way down to that mechanic that every elite player uses, unit cycling. Okay, generals, let's dive in. Okay, generals, now tip number 5 is a rookie mistake I see all the time, and even the best players in the game still do it. You push deep into enemy territory, you grab city after city after city, you're doing well, but then you realize you cannot spawn any troops on your front line, and your funds, well, they're starving. In War of Dots, a city is just a dot on the map until you connect it. If you don't establish that line back to the rest of your economy, to your primary network, then you get basically zero benefits. No resources are ticking, and no units can spawn there. Nothing. The strategy: always leapfrog. When you take a new city, remember to immediately hit number 7 that pulls up your economy screen and click on the city and it will connect. You must prioritize that connection. This turns that city into a forward operating base, spawning units at the front instead of you having to trek them across the map to get to the front line. This can be the difference between keeping your momentum going and watching your invasion stall out. This is a simple one, guys. Connect your dots or get wiped. Okay, generals, now tip number 4 is another easy one to remember, but it is a mechanical game changer. Most players just click and drag, letting the AI decide the path, and well, the AI is, let's just say, not a 5-star general. It'll lead your units into the worst terrain imaginable, being stuck on mountains, into the water. It's not going to be very good. The pro move here: hold down the Alt key. This allows you to literally draw the movement path for your dots. Why does that matter? Because it allows you to skirt around tough terrain. When you hit a line, you can then move around your enemy lines for a pincer move. You can draw squiggle lines. It's really, really helpful to avoid danger zones and to also perform encirclements. If there is a mountain range in your way, don't let the AI slow you down. Draw a curve around it. Use the Alt to snake your way into the back lines of a city while your opponent is looking at the front door. Precision is power. Okay, generals, here we are now with tip number 3. Know your ground. Terrain isn't just a decoration, it's a force multiplier. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're in a map that's predominantly grasslands, that's the lighter green, this is where your heavies shine. It's open, it's flat, they can leverage their power. They do excellent, they move fast, they dominate grasslands. So, if you have a map that's mainly grasslands, I would suggest at least considering building a good portion of your new units as heavies. On the counter side, though, when you see the heavy forest, which is all the dark green, stop sending your tank units here and stop producing them. They're going to move twice as slow and they're not going to be that effective. This is really where the light units shine. They move a lot faster and they fight a lot better in the bush. This isn't to say that you shouldn't make any heavies, but they should be a lot less of a focus. They're really going to bog you down most of the time. And finally, the big one, rivers and mountains. These can be your best friends or your worst enemies. If you see a river crossing, that is a choke point. Never ever let your opponent take hold of a bridgehead on your side of the banks. If you can trap your enemy while they are moving halfway across a river, they are sitting ducks. And if you can surround them when they advance into your land, that is what is needed. On the counter side, you yourself need to cross that river as soon as possible and secure a major foothold because I've seen it happen many times. It is hard to attack across those rivers. Even when you outnumber your enemy, you really lose that momentum and it can be extremely difficult and bog you down. So, when you see a river, get across it as fast as you can and hold it. And if your enemy is moving on you doing that, push them back as soon as you can. Don't just fight the enemy, fight the map. If you choose the right unit for the right ground, you'll win the engagements where you are outnumbered 2-1. Okay, generals, we are just cranking through these tips here, and we are now on to the second tip. This is number 2. If you take nothing else away from this video, remember this. Encirclements are OP. In Warp Dots, supply is everything. If you get your units around the back of an enemy force and you cut off their connection to their cities, they don't just stop getting reinforcements, they actually start to melt in front of you. An encircled enemy loses their defensive bonuses and their morale drops exponentially. They cannot support themselves for very long without being connected to their city. You don't even have to have a stronger force. You just need to be the one who closes the circle and maintain that circle and is able to push slightly on those armies. I mean, in fact, you could just probably let them die of attrition, but that would probably take a little bit of time where you could be using your dots elsewhere. So always be looking for that pincer movement. Close the gap, cut the line, and watch that entire enemy army vanish. It is one of the most satisfying moves in the game, and it really is the most basic and most effective strategy, in my opinion. Okay, and now before we hit number 1, a quick honorable mention, the chat distraction. Okay, look, I'm not saying you should spam the chat with good game or other weird things. I mean, there are only a couple things you can say in chat, but what I am saying is, if you say some things in chat, it's going to show up, the person's going to be able to see it, and they might start to respond. And if they're responding, they are not focused on their dots, they're not moving. That is where maybe you could confuse and, distract them a little bit. So use it at your own risk. Just don't blame me if they mute you.
Shut up! Will you shut up?
Okay, generals, this is it. This is my number 1 tip of the game to help you master War of Dots and always be winning. This is the tip that separates the legends from the rest of us. Unit cycling. What do I mean by that? Elite play is all about sustainability. Most players send a unit to the front, let it fight until it pops, and recycle a new unit from the backfield to take its place. That is a waste of a veteran unit. It is a waste of your time. It is a waste of your resources. So, what do you do and how do you do it? You need to maintain either a reserve line or your cities being occupied by your units. When your front dots are getting wounded, and I'm talking that they are about at 20 to 30% health, don't let them die. Pull them back to the city behind your lines or in a line behind your main line and let them rest and heal. Simultaneously, you pull your fresh units from that reserve line or from your cities in the back into the front line gaps that were just formed. Now, this is the kind of difficult piece because it is very micromanaging And it uses some of the previous tips from before, like the Alt button. You need to be able to move your wounded units out quickly through the terrain back to the cities where they can rest. And you got to do the same thing, pulling the rested units back up to the front line. And this can, like I said, be very micromanaged. You have to be able to maintain your time and move very quickly while doing this. It requires a massive amount of this micromanagement, but the result is a front line that never breaks. You are essentially rotating fresh blood into the meat grinder while your veterans sit back and have coffee in the cities, heal up, and get ready for their next rotation. Mastering this cycle, and you become invincible. If not, you're going to be losing units by the ton and waiting for your cities to produce new units, which are still low health when they spawn. So it is very much not efficient. You gotta cycle your units from the front to the back and vice versa. Well, generals, that's the list. Apply these 5 tips, and I promise you'll see your win rate skyrocket. If you enjoyed this deep dive and you're still watching at this point in the video, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It only takes you a second and it means the world to me. I'm building a community here and I really appreciate each and every one of you. Also consider liking this video and leaving a comment. What did you think about these tips? Are they good? Are they bad? What do you think is an important thing when playing War of Dots? Finally, consider coming around on Sundays for our live stream, Subscriber Sunday, where you, the viewer, have a chance to play some of the world's best players of War of Dots. Well, generals, thank you for watching, and until further notice, I will see you on the battlefield.